The world's highest court, the ICJ, of which Israel is a member, a participating member, a signatory to all the protocols, has been ordered by Netanyahu to stop their anti-Semitism. The ICJ demanded that Israel halt their assault on the tent city of Rafah, where 1.3 million people are sheltering from the storm of missiles, rockets, bombs, artillery shells, shells from warships, everything that America can give and that Israel can throw. Just in the last hour, a whole family of 11, mother, father, and 9 children have been wiped out in Gaza. All in the name of self-defense, of course. All in the name of Israel having a right to defend itself. And the Wall Street Journal produces a leader which argues that it is legally possible to kill children. That is, legally to kill children, according to the Wall Street Journal. These ghouls, these monsters who preside over us and provide the chorus to justify the criminal insanity of our rulers, to win consent for the prevailing orthodoxy, the prevailing narrative, have got to be stopped. They have got to be overthrown. Our governments are leading us to disaster. And Gaza is only one of the theaters in which they are doing it. Ukraine looks now virtually certain to collapse over the next few weeks. What's the Western answer? Not to cut their losses, your losses, of trillions of your taxes, but to reinforce failure and to send our young men into the maw in the conflict between NATO and the Russian Federation. Problem is, the young people are not prepared to go. Even the Ukrainian young people are not prepared to go. Not even 1/3 of those recently mobilized by the Chief Martial Law Administrator, Volodymyr Zelensky, whose presidential term is now null and void. He made a new mobilization order. 32% of those mobilized have turned up. So the Ukrainian young and old men are not prepared to fight for NATO. Easily solved though, isn't it? Let's get NATO to fight for them. Let's send our soldiers into the blizzard. For that is exactly what it would be. The French are already there. Of course, they claim it's a foreign legion. They're not really French, although they're wearing the French insignia and receiving their salaries from the presidency of France. But they are there even though NATO has repeatedly said that it has no intention of joining the war. Germany has refused to supply even more deadly missiles with which to kill Russian civilians because they would have to send their own personnel to help operate them. Why then are there so many German soldiers called mercenaries already there fighting in the Ukraine, fighting and dying? Ditto Poland, the largest single component of the multinational intervention in what is a civil war in Ukraine. Who knew that NATO's role was to intervene in civil wars on the border of the Russian Federation, a nuclear-armed superpower with multiple hypersonic capability and a dead man switch? If Russia is attacked with nuclear weapons, every single nuclear weapon in Russia, that's 6,800 of them, will simultaneously be launched at pre-programmed targets near you. Every target in the United States every city, every town will be completely incinerated. You will be ash. Even if the entire Russian leadership is taken out by a first strike of nuclear weapons from NATO against Russia. Ditto every town and city in France, in Germany, in Britain, in Italy, in Poland. They will all be turned to ash. The world will turn into a nuclear winter, even if all the Russian leaders and generals are dead. It's automatic. It's a computer dead man's switch. Have you thought about this? And then, of course, there's Britain. We don't have enough soldiers to send. We don't have enough soldiers properly to guard His Majesty. Buckingham Palace doesn't have enough troops to guard its perimeter. The British Army is so small it could fit into not the National or even any of the very biggest football stadia in Britain, but into middle-sized, mid-table football stadia in Britain. That's the British Army, Navy and Air Force. Our aircraft carriers are stuck together by glue. They crash into each other with regularity. They have to be withdrawn from the patrols on which the donkeys at Westminster have sent them. So how are we going to handle our wish to join the charge of the Light Brigade? Well, we now know the Prime Minister of Britain has just announced that if re-elected, national service, conscription of our young people aged 18 will become compulsory. What they're going to do about the fact that literally millions of our young people will refuse to go and die for little Rishi Sunak and senile, drooling, imbecilic Joe Biden. What they're going to do to make it compulsory is not clear. James, not very cleverly, the Home Secretary of Britain, was on television this morning. He said he ruled out refuseniks going to prison. So what are they going to do about the mass refusal that there will be? I know, because I'll be organizing the mass refusal. Write this down, Mr. Not So Cleverly. We will mobilize millions of people in Britain. We will not go into your national service. No conscription, no to war, no to NATO. No young British person will die in Joe Biden or Donald Trump's American wars. Do you hear me? Hear me clearly. We will mobilize millions of people. I'll lead it as long as God gives me breath. Whether you want to designate that as a crime or not, if necessary, I'll do it from behind bars. We will not allow our young people either to be returned to the early 1980s, YOPS boys and girls, YTS boys and girls, which is the camouflage fig leaf for the military conscription that this truly is. They say, well, you might not have to go to war. You might be put to good work instead, by which they mean actual work that people should be being paid to do. You'll do for free for the crime of being 18, young and British. We refuse it. We've been there. Some of us are old enough to have opposed first time around the idea that our young people, denied a job, denied education that they can afford, will instead be sent out to pick up the trash. Compulsory, sent out to pick up the trash. We won't have it. We won't stand for it. I'll agitate here on the mother of all talk shows against it, and as the leader of the Workers' Party of Britain. I say no. Our workers demand dignity, demand decent wages, demand employment protection. We will not allow jobs to be diluted. We will not allow jobs to be spoiled by free labor, compulsory labor. We call that slavery, you see. And as our purpose, our only purpose, is to defend the rights of the workers, their health, their livelihood, their rights. How could you expect anything else of us? So expect us, Mr. Sunak. Now, of course, according to the latest opinion polls, Mr. Sunak is unlikely to be the Prime Minister. But just like everything else that the Conservative governments of the last 14, nearly 15 years, the so-called opposition will in one form or another soon adopt the government's policy. We agree with the government is the most often uttered phrase of the man that's paid to oppose the government as the leader of the opposition. And what has now happened is that it has been normalized that our young people may be conscripted and sent to war against America's enemies. And it's against that good night into which we will not go quietly. The truth is, in any case, the outcome of the British general election is very far from settled. It is argued by the prevailing orthodoxy, the deep state, the mass media, that Sir Keir Starmer, or Sir Kid Starver as we call him, can already measure the curtains in Downing Street. He's a cert, a shoe-in. Well, I don't think so. And I don't think so for reasons which the media and the pollsters know, but are refusing to tell the public. And it's this, that nobody in Britain, beyond those paid to do so, has any enthusiasm for a Prime Minister Rishi Sunak or a Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Nobody moves out of love for either of these. And though the prime ministerial robes may hang loose upon Rishi Sunak's soldiers like a dwarfish thief, they won't fit Daddy Pig Starmer anymore neatly. They might even be too tight for him. But that doesn't mean that he's fit to wear them. His principal problem is that he is an inveterate, brazen, wicked liar who has lied and lied and lied and lied again. When inside Corbyn's shadow cabinet, when running to be Corbyn's successor, when successfully being elected as the leader of the Labour Party, lie after lie after lie, so that the Labour Party is now an empty shell, a group of empty raincoats, suits, men at CNA, and they almost always are young men of a certain type who are swarming around the new Labour camp as if they owned the place already. And they do, of course, wholly own the Labour Party. This election in Britain is Blair versus Blair. Rishi Sunak is a diminutive, miniature Tony Blair. Sir Keir Starmer is a fat Tony Blair, without the laughs, without the polish, without any of the pizzazz. This is Blair versus Blair in every conceivable way. Brutal party management that roots out and expels anyone who just might one day say or do something that is in any way redolent of the ghosts of Labour's past. By which I don't mean James Maxton, still less John McLean. I mean Gordon Brown. I mean James Callaghan, Barbara Castle. 2 days ago I was in Blackburn. Barbara Castle Way. The Labour Party today wouldn't even know who Barbara Castle was, let alone acknowledge that they were travelling in Barbara Castle's way. I'm talking about Harold Wilson. I'm talking about Judith Hart. I'm talking about mainstream social democratic people. They are as alien from what passes for Labour today as a man in the moon, a man from Mars. This is not Labour. It should not be confused with Labour. Its hands are dripping in blood. If you care anything at all about those children that were murdered in Gaza today, how can you vote for a party which has supported from the first bomb the so-called right of Israel to self-defense by murdering children and women in their shanty, in their hovels, even in their tents? The shadow foreign secretary, the Idi Amin of British politics, David Lammy, bought and paid for by pro-Israel lobbyists, said on television that Israel has the legal right to bomb refugee camps. Keir Starmer, Daddy Pig, the leader, said on television that Israel has the right to cut off water, electricity, medicine, seal all entries and exits. Israel has the right, he said, to do that. What kind of person would you be if you were to vote for that? Everyone's sick of the two-party system, the two cheeks of the same arse. Everyone's sick of the uni party, and people come up with all kinds of schemes and ideas in order to change it. But it will not be changed if people keep voting for those two parties. It will not be changed if you reward the uni party with another 5 years of office. Have pity on me. I might have to sit and see up close and personal the crimes which are to come. It's going to be a great show tonight, so fasten your seatbelts. It's the mother of all talk shows.